I thought that today for our Powernomics training, it will be important to connect what's going on with Juneteenth to what's happening in our community and also what's in Dr. Claude Anderson's books, who I consider to be the original Juneteenther. He is the king of Juneteenth. He's Kingteenth or something, right? He's the man. And he says hello, by the way. I talked to Dr. Anderson today. He's feeling stronger. I don't see him making a lot of public appearances in the future, however, but he does send his blessings and his regards. And as I told you all, I've been teaching this class for 5 years now, approximately, something like that. And by the way, if you go to Dr. Boyce Book Club, I think it's drboycebookclub.com, if that's it. Yeah, you can get all the recordings of every single training that we've done. So feel free to do that. But I wouldn't be teaching this class if it wasn't for him saying it's okay to do that. If he said it's not okay to use the name Powernomics in the title, I would not be doing that. So he sends his blessings and his regards, and also he sends his appreciation and his respect for the fact that you are the last line of defense for the Black community. You are the people that are pushing for intelligence over ignorance. You are pushing for unity over division. You are pushing for progress over backwardness. And there's a whole lot of shenanigans out here, a whole lot of ridiculousness, because a lot of times we don't know our history, right? We don't know historically when we see ourselves engaging in weird, strange, and obviously humiliating ways. There's not a historical context that allows us to understand, why this buffoonery might be so common, why the shenanigans just continue. So this is one of the reasons why it's important to read books from our elders who can tell us the things that we need to know. A lot of times, and I'll tell you this, when you talk about economics, and you guys know I'm not a financial influencer at all, I'm a financial scientist. That's my goal. The science pretty much tells me that when you look at Black wealth growth and shrinkage, a lot of your answers lie before integration, not after integration. Integration didn't really do a whole lot to put you in a better economic position. Integration actually moved you backwards. So with that being said, there's a lot that we can all learn here in terms of knowing how to make ourselves better and stronger in this new environment. Now, give me a quick yes if you can hear me. Okay, let me know if you can hear me and my audio's coming through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start reading from Dr. Claude Anderson's book. We've been reading this book for probably about a year now. We read a little bit every week. I almost want to do this class more than once a week or something. I'm going to think about that. We already do Money in the Morning, our economic elevation every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. That is 7 days a week. So if you aren't invited to Money in the Morning, where we do financial consciousness training, it's an amazing class. Anybody who's in there, just say something in the chat so people will know, like, this is not BS. If you want to join us, just text the word morning to 87948. Text morning to 87948, or you can go to drboyceelevate.com if you live in another country. And this book is called The Black History Reader. The Black History Reader, and the website you can get a copy of Dr. Anderson's book is powernomics.com. So please go to powernomics.com, support this man and his amazing work. A lot of people are sort of willing to say that they support things, but they don't really support. And a lot of other communities, you look in the Jewish and Asian communities, Indian communities, etc., they support things by writing checks for the things that they believe in. Right? Money is power. And we write lots of checks. We spend lots of money. We are among the biggest consumers in the entire planet. The problem is, though, that because we did not learn that money is power, we give our power to people who don't love us. We'll write a check for massa before we write a check for somebody that's really trying to do something good for us. So I encourage you to be very conscious. This is a good exercise in financial consciousness, to target your money to the people that are going to benefit you, right? That's what you do. That's what I do with my money. When I'm spending money, I'm always thinking, if I give this person my money, is that going to boomerang? Is that going to come back to the places and the people and the situations that I value? Is that going to ultimately benefit me, or is that going to just benefit somebody else? So keep that in mind as you spend your money and you make your decisions. All right. So powernomics.com, that's the website. Now we're going to turn into page 147. And this is where Dr. Anderson's going to talk about an aspect of Juneteenth that does not get discussed. They never discuss this when Juneteenth comes up, but they need to talk about it. First off, let me ask you a simple question. Let's just do a quick review. How many of you believe that Black people deserve reparations? Give me a yes if you agree. that it's time to pay reparations. Give me a yes if you agree that we are owed for slavery, we are owed for Jim Crow, we are owed for the Middle Passage, we are owed for all the trauma, we are owed for everything you stole, we're owed for all the trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that were taken from us. We are owed for so many things. I'm owed for the fact that my daddy was on drugs because y'all put drugs in the black community. I'm owed for the fact that I had too many relatives that went to your prison or your concentration camps called penitentiaries, and it affected my life, right? I'm owed for the fact that I had to deal with the trauma of having friends get killed, like my homeboy Greg Wilkins, who got shot in the head in front of his daughter in 1996, right after Tupac died in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, just a few blocks from where Breonna Taylor died, right? So a lot of us are, oh, these are the butterfly effects. These are the ripple effects that occur when you have a community that's been stolen from, abused, and neglected for such a very long time. You owe us that money. You cannot be my friend until you pay what you owe. You can't. You cannot get my support politically. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I want to make that clear. I do not tell people who to vote for, and I do not give investing advice. But I do openly tell you what I'm going to do. And the reality is that you do not get my vote until you show me that you respect me enough to acknowledge what I went through and fix it. If you can't fix it, then forget it. Right? You send $100 billion to Ukraine and Israel. Well, you better send the next 100 billion to us. Really, it's more than 100 billion, but that will be a nice little down payment to kind of get us started so we can fund some black-owned businesses and quit those damn jobs. Because one of the things that you have to understand, and this is, I think it's important to couch this within what's going on with Juneteenth. Juneteenth is today, so let's talk about Juneteenth. So Juneteenth, we know the history. Juneteenth down in Galveston it is a celebration, a recognition of the fact that they took two more years of free labor from us after the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed, and so the slaves down in Texas did not know that they had been freed, and so finally General Granger, I believe that's his name, comes down to Galveston. He tells everybody, "Hey, y'all can go home now. Y'all ain't got to keep working," and so we were free. So to this day, we celebrate Juneteenth. Juneteenth is basically a blend of the words June and 19th. So it's Juneteenth. June 19th, that's the day before my birthday, actually. I'll be 53 years old tomorrow. But I prefer to think of it as the 18th celebration of my 35th birthday. So wish me a happy 35th, and that'll make me feel better. All right. So with that being said, though, so this is Juneteenth, right? So Juneteenth to me is a celebration of what? A celebration of freedom, right? We got our freedom, right? We're free. We's free, y'all. Right? We don't have to work for massa no more, right? We have freedom. Okay, so I have to ask you a basic question, a basic fundamental question, and I'm gonna lay it out like this. How many of you believe that most black people are free? How many of y'all believe black people are free? I mean, really, what do you think? Do you think that we just do what we want, say what we want without fear, just move how we want, get up in the morning and do what we want that day? How many of y'all believe black people are free? I mean, it's Juneteenth. I mean, if you're having some of y'all have Juneteenth barbecues and you had the hot dogs and the hamburgers and the ribs and all that stuff. We ain't supposed to eat, but it's okay. I like barbecue too. Don't tell my friends that the friends I love with the Nation of Islam though. They probably get on me because they did make some, but I think they were like those beef hot dogs, so that's not as bad. So we don't be doing the pork. All right. So anyway, but still though, right? So if you're celebrating Juneteenth, then that obviously means you're free. That right? You have freedom. So why I don't understand what's going on. Oh, I get it. I know that's Dr. Claude Anderson was telling us one day when he came in. He said that, if I'm not mistaken, he said that in 1862, 98.5% of all black people work for. We're not going to say we're going to talk about white people because they get that makes people nervous. If I'm on a public channel, I mean I'm double streaming on YouTube, so I don't want to get us banned. So let's call it massa. So in 1862, 98.5% of you work for massa. And in 2024, 98.5% of you work for massa. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I didn't celebrate Juneteenth because I feel like I'd be a fraud if I did. And the reason that I'd be a fraud is because the idea that we were free after the end of slavery is a false idea. I don't think we're free yet. I don't think Juneteenth has actually arrived. Juneteenth has not arrived. Juneteenth will arrive when you're truly free. Some of you are free. Some of you are. I meet some of you. Some of you are doing well. Some of you do what you want. You have plenty of resources. You're doing okay. Some of us, we still have a ways to go. And I'm not here to judge what position on the stratosphere you are. I'm just here to kind of talk about that because I think that in order for us to really have a serious Juneteenth conversation, we have to realize that it's time for the barbecue to come to an end. It's time for us to stop all the celebrating and buck dancing over Juneteenth. I'm not saying you can't celebrate. I'm not saying you can't have a good time that day, but I think you need to really understand just where we really are and what we're trying to really do. So when you're talking about freedom, freedom means that you are free. Also, slavery doesn't mean that you're not getting paid. There are plenty of high paid slaves in this society. Slavery pretty much means that you don't get to do what you want to do. Slavery means that somebody else is deciding your fate. Slavery means somebody else is controlling your destiny. Slavery means you wake up in the morning and when you look and you say, gosh, these are the things I want to do today. And you can't because someone else is saying, no, we need you over here. You need to do these things. You need to spend your whole day in a factory, not with your kids, not at the gym, not sleeping in, not living life. You need to come do what master says. Because if you don't, the consequences are devastating. You will not be able to pay your rent. You will not be able to feed your children. You will not be able to you won't be able to put gas in your car. You won't be able to do anything. You can't live if you don't do what we say. So, with that being said, I think that's an important conversation to start having on Juneteenth is the economic conversation because we know that we're not economically free. Reparation slides into that conversation because we know that some of this slavery is socially constructed. Slavery is a social construct. That is social engineering. They engineered society to make sure that your Juneteenth never arrives. The society is engineered in such a way that it is nearly impossible for anyone, black, white, or otherwise, to be free if you don't have access to some economic resources. When they issued the Emancipation Proclamation, one of the first things they did during Reconstruction was they said, "How in the hell can these people be free when they ain't got nothing? You can't be free if you ain't got nothing." So what they did was they said they did the right thing. They tried to do the right thing, kind of. They said we're going to give every slave, a mule, 40 acres, and $100. That would and back then $100 went a long way, right? I guess I imagine it's a few $1,000s. I don't know what $100 was in 1865, but it was a whole lot more than it is now. Now you can't buy a pack of gum for $100, but back then it was good. Okay, so they wanted to give every freed slave 40 acres, a mule, and $100 because they said now you're truly free. It's like our kids. We tell our teenage kids you're free to do whatever you want, but then they end up doing what we tell them to do. Why? Well, because we got all the money. Because they know that they can't go and do what they want if they don't have resources. So when they come to us and they say, "I'm mad because you won't do whatever, and I want to do this and I want to do that," and I say, "Fine, do whatever you want. Just know I will not financially support anything that you do because I'm the king and that's the queen and we control all the resources. We are the federal government in this house. But you're free to do whatever you want. Please go ahead. You're free to go to the movies without a car. You're free to go shopping with no money in your pocket. You're free. You can go, in fact, you can go get you an apartment, but I know how much apartments cost. So I know you ain't going nowhere. You're going to go to your room. So basically, you can't have freedom in America without resources. You have to have resources. So we know our children will never be free until they learn how to make their own money. That's it. So either they're gonna have to learn how to make their own money, or we're just gonna have to give them enough money to do whatever they want to do. One of the two things are gonna happen. It cannot be something where they think that freedom can happen just magically because somebody says you're free. No, you can't be free without money. So in a way, you can think about it like this. With black people, you've kind of got a couple of types of us, really. You got those that really are fighting to be free. And then you got those who just kind of think that they're free. And I'm not making fun of any group in any category. I'm not making fun of anybody. You got a lot of people that think that they're free and they think that they're being black and they think they understand what blackness looks like because they connect it to silly stuff like dancing and hairstyles and whether or not you eat barbecue chicken at grandma's house and stuff like that. And then you got people that really understand how serious this game is. And so what I really am hoping I can persuade you of is that In order for you to really have the freedom that you're attempting to obtain, you're kind of in a situation that's similar to the kids in this house. To some extent, Massa is like our daddy. He's our sugar daddy. He's our parent. And basically, just like I, as the parent of the kids in this house, and my wife as the parent of the kids in this house, we make the rules. So, in order for the kids to be free, they're gonna have to learn to make their own money. They're gonna have their own resources. So, the question I would ask anybody who really wants to know what freedom looks like in America, in a capitalist society where money rules everything, cash rules everything around me, right? In that society, in order for you to be free, you got to learn how to make your own money. Are you learning how to make your own money? Is that your plan? Is that something that you're aiming for? Because I can tell you, as a financial scientist, that the way you've been trained to think about freedom is entirely and completely wrong. The way you've been trained to think about freedom is entirely incorrect. The way you've been trained to think about freedom is wrong, and I can prove to you why. I want you to look around and see how many people you see with advanced degrees and fancy jobs making $100,000 a year who still don't feel free. How in the hell is it that you got the bachelor's, you got the master's, you got the PhD, you got the law degree, and you went to college, you went to Brown University and got every degree that you could get, and you still don't feel free? Well, I think part of it is because we never learned what freedom really looks like. We don't know the financial security aspect of freedom. Who was I talking to about that today? I was talking to somebody. I was meeting with a student that so many thoughts go through my head. Oh, I know what it was. I know what it was. I was talking to a guy who's an investment advisor to a lot of very wealthy athletes and entertainers. That's what it was. And he runs a company out in LA. These are the brothers you never meet. He's a young guy, about 38 years old, managing millions of dollars very quietly. He's not loud and flashy like a rapper. He's just quietly accumulating tens of millions of dollars in his family trust. And we were talking about how there are so many people who get caught in these crazy traps in society because they don't even understand how vulnerable they actually are. They don't really understand what true freedom actually looks like, and they mistake it for a high income, or they think that because they drive a certain car or live in a certain house, or because white folks put you on TV, that somehow that means you're powerful and that you're free. And then what happens is when something goes wrong and when they decide that they're done with you, or they decide they want to kick you flat in your ass, they do that publicly and they spank you in public so that everybody sees it, just to remind you who's really in control. Just to remind you that you thought you had grown up. You thought Pinocchio was a real boy. And no, Pinocchio was never a real boy. Pinocchio had a puppet master named Geppetto who had his arm up his ass the entire time. So whenever Pinocchio was talking, he thought that those words were coming from his own brain, and they weren't. They were coming from Geppetto's brain. Geppetto was the one moving his lips, and Pinocchio just had somebody up his butt and just pulling the strings. And to some extent, I think that this is one of the problems that we have. I think that we celebrate Juneteenth and we celebrate all the progress that we've made, which we have made some progress. I'm not going to pretend like we haven't, but we celebrate it as if we've arrived, right? As if there's so many things to be so happy about. And I would say this to you, another sign of freedom, in my opinion, is when you have the ability to solve your own problems. That's another sign of freedom. That's another symptom of what I refer to in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, as economic maturity. So I want to ask you another question. I want you to give me a yes or no. Do you believe that the Black community is a community that has shown a consistent ability to solve its own problems? Like when we have violence in our neighborhoods, are we the ones who just stamp it out? Or do we wait for somebody else to do it? Or when we have an economic problem and our money's a little bit short, do we have the ability to do it? Or do we wait for somebody else? If we don't like something that's happening, I don't know, in the entertainment industry, right? When you got rappers that pop up out of nowhere like Sexy Red, just literally debasing the image of Black women around the world. Are we the ones that are able to kind of control and manage that? Yes or no? Now I'm going to ask you another question. Let's talk about another community, right? And the one that community, it starts with a J. We're not going to say it because I ain't trying to get in trouble with YouTube. They're really good with money. They tend to own TV networks and radio stations and record labels. If they don't like an artist, do they have the ability to pretty much delete that artist? If they don't like something in their neighborhood, yes or no? If they don't like something in their neighborhood, do they have the ability to fix that problem? If they don't like something that's happening politically, do they have the ability without voting to fix that issue? Can they, if they want more money sent over to Israel, $100 billion so they can buy bombs and stuff, can they get that done? Are they able to pick up the phone and make it happen? Yes or no? Okay. So here's I'm gonna lay this out for you, and I need all the stupid people to get out of the room. Everybody who just ain't trying to get it, please don't come. Stop it. We're gonna have to kick you in your head and push you out because I ain't got time for you right now. I'm like Harriet Tubman. I'm about to pull out the shotgun if you ain't got no sense. Um, I need you to process this for a moment, please. And this is something I'm closing my eyes on because I want to make sure I say it right. I personally think that you should take note of the fact that as these elections are coming up, and everybody's telling you that voting is your only chance to improve your situation, I need you to go look at those communities that either that may vote, may not vote, but it doesn't matter if they vote. They're still going to have power. I need you to look at that community I just described to you that doesn't even have enough people to influence the vote. They can't tip the vote. And I want you to process for a moment, how in the hell is it that we feel like that we have to vote or die? You remember when Diddy used to say, if you don't vote, you're going to die. For us, it's vote or die. For them, it's like, yeah, voting, whatever. That's not how we actually make things move. How is it that they will have more power than you? What is it that they're thinking that you're not thinking? What, this is a financial consciousness moment. This is a money meditation. I need you to meditate on this. How in the hell is it that they can move mountains, whether they vote or not? But they got you on this whole vote or die nonsense. I'm not telling you not to vote. Please don't do that because I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings or disrupt your sensitivities. I know your grandma told you that you had to vote or bad things are going to happen, and I understand that. I respect that. We ain't going to disrespect grandma today. But I really need you to think about that. Do you know why they're able to control their fate? Do you know why they actually have freedom? And we just kind of have the illusion of freedom. Do you know why they can fix problems in their community and we can't? What do you think that it is that they're focused on that we're not focused on that makes the difference? It's money. Money, power, respect is the key to life. Money, power, respect. Have you eaten right? Cash moves everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill, y'all. It's all about the economics, people. It's all about the economics. And I'm going to duck my head because I want you to look behind me. Those three men behind me, they've been saying that for over 100 years. Consistently, if you listen to Dr. Claude Anderson, you listen to Malcolm X, you listen to Marcus Garvey, all three of these men, and many, many others, they're not the only ones, have said, if you get your economics right, you will have access to your Juneteenth. That is when you can really go to the barbecue, eat good, and sleep good afterward. That is when you can really celebrate something because then that's when you have the ability to move mountains in your own life. And what I'm going to propose is that the model is not a national model. It is not a model where everybody gets on the same boat and does the same thing. I don't even know how to do that. I don't know how to get every Black person on the same page. I'm not trying to do that. What I'm arguing is that Black leadership needs to be decentralized. Everybody in here is a Black leader. Everybody has an assignment. So I'm not asking you to free the whole Black community or to liberate everybody. Some people, some of them want to go get on the slave ship. Some of them enjoy riding the slave ship. They getting tans. They chilling on the slave ship. They got a martini on the slave ship. Let them stay there. Some of y'all got relatives that want to stay on the slave ship. Let them stay there. But when it comes to you and yours, I hope that I've made a clear case to you that if you get your economics right, then you really will get a taste of what freedom truly feels like. Freedom is kind of simple. In fact, freedom is so simple that even animals know what freedom looks like. An animal knows the difference between being free and being in a cage. A dog knows the difference between being able to run through the woods versus being on a leash. He knows he likes to be free. He don't want to be locked up. Once he's had freedom, he doesn't go back. So freedom is not complicated. You know what it feels like when you're free. You know, we talk about stock options a lot, but also we talk about options a lot because options are just like freedom. Options means I can do whatever I want. So when you're in a position where you can do whatever you want, then that is when you are free. When you are in a position where you have options, that is when you are free. Chris Rock said once, I remember, that money gets you options. Even crazy ass Kanye West, I remember him saying something like, "Wait till I get my money right, nah, 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 can't nobody tell me nothing." And let me tell you, sitting on the phone with Kanye for all those hours that we did during the convention, because he called right during the convention. I don't know if somebody told him what we were doing or what, but I can tell you, he clearly is a man that knows he has hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank and he can do whatever he wants. I'm not mad at him for that at all. Okay, so what I'm saying to you overall is that for in your case, it's basic tenets of economic security such that if you follow those basic rules, you can be in a position where you can actually have a Juneteenth for yourself. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. I mean, sure, freedom is more fun when you have other friends that are free. You know, I used to call my grandma when I started when I joined the faculty at Syracuse. I became a professor because I thought I didn't really think much about entrepreneurship at that time, so I thought the best I could do was get a flexible job. So I had this job where I was making over $100,000 a year and I was able to stay home pretty much every day. I would go to work Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's it. I was a workaholic pretty much, and I would call my grandmother like every other day, like once every 2 or 3 days. All right. And I remember calling her, and I was like, "You're the only other person I know who doesn't have to go to work every day." And so I would call my grandma, right? So freedom is more fun when you have other people around that are in the same space. But generally speaking, you can secure freedom for yourself and for your family by establishing a culture that's built around freedom. And I can tell you that the culture that we have, the one that says, you know, go to school and then go $200,000 in debt in college, and then that way you can maybe get you a $50,000 a year job. That model doesn't work. Most black college graduates can't even pay back their student loans. A lot of black college graduates are going to die in debt. Black college graduates, unfortunately, don't even have the tools, nor the resources, nor the free time, nor the creativity, nor the courage to go build the kind of infrastructure that's required to build a community. And unfortunately, many black college graduates, and I include myself in this group, many of us are trained to be high paid slaves. We're trained to be under the umbrella of a system, controlled and managed by that system, without skills to leave that system, so we can serve that system. So what I've simply argued is, why are you serving another system when you should be serving your own? Where's your system at? What system have you built? What empires are you developing? And are you even taking the chances to make that happen? Do you have the skills to make that happen? Were you raised on the things required for that an entrepreneur or business owner or investor needs to know in order to accumulate wealth? Is your consciousness even on the right radar? Or are you focused on salaries and bonuses and whether or not you get that fancy corner office and or a company car and a corporate credit card and all these other stupid things that they teach us are important? Those things are not important. What's important is what you own and control. It is what you own and what you control. That is what gives you freedom. You look at even a bigot like Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk, it was really funny. Elon Musk just signed a deal with Switch Beats and and Timberland to do something with Versus on Twitter, right? Which is kind of crazy. Elon Musk is it's crazy that they signed it on Juneteenth and made the announcement on Juneteenth because Elon Musk is he's a racist. He's like an apartheid guy. And now, mind you, that doesn't bother me much in the sense that I don't care what white people think about me. I really don't. I don't get offended because a white man doesn't like me. I assume that they don't like me that much because I don't care about them. They don't care about me. It was whatever, right? But it is what it is, right? So anyway, but if you look at Elon Musk, he's kind of a guy that does what he wants to do. And the reason he does what he wants to do is because he's economically free. He owns things, right? So again, rather than sitting around being mad about the fact that he doesn't like you, I hate to break it to you, but he doesn't. Um, I don't care about that. I want to study and understand freedom and what that looks like. So freedom is economics. Economics is freedom. Learn economics. Be careful with debt. Debt is a type of slavery. When people get drowned too much in debt, they have to go to work in order to pay the debt. That's why after the pandemic, they wanted student loan payments to resume because they said people won't come to work if we make them pay their student loans, then they're gonna have to come to work, and we will have the workers that we need. So don't let them back you into slavery. That's pretty much the way capitalist systems are designed. Okay, so that's your Juneteenth conversation for today. Now let's read about what Dr. Anderson says about all the money that they owe you, because I think that's also an important thing to talk about on Juneteenth. Now, just a reminder, don't forget the All Black National Convention is October 25th through the 27th. We have secured Brother Nuri Muhammad as one of our keynotes, who is one of the great Black leaders in this country. We also have Lamar Tyler, who I call the Black millionaire maker, who is going to be there as well as a slew of attorneys and real estate experts. Constance Carter, who ran the largest Black real estate firm in California, she's going to be there. And we're going to have a ton of real estate experts and financial experts and therapists and medical doctors and all kinds of people at the convention. So it's going to be right outside Chicago, Lombard, Illinois, October 25th through the 27th. And so if you want to learn more, you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. Also, some of you are going to go to Egypt with us. We're going to Egypt August 2nd or something through the 12th. Now, I would invite you all to go, but the trip is totally sold out. However, we are going to do another trip. So if you'd like to go on the next one, we will let you know when that's going to happen. All right. So let's get started here. All right. So question 47 says, this is page 147 of the book, The Black History Reader by Dr. Claude Anderson, powernomics.com is where you can get a copy. He says, did Black Americans receive the same economic benefits as whites in Franklin D. Roosevelt's 1930s New Deal? In President Franklin D. Roosevelt's 1932 New Deal program, Black Americans, the people who had suffered the most during the Great Depression, received the least benefits. Surprise, surprise. The stock market crash in 1929 triggered the Great Depression that stalled economies around the world, closed factories and businesses, and brought hard times to everyone's front door. The nation's general unemployment rate was pushed to 25% for whites, which was but it was 2 to 3 times higher for blacks. So they're 25%. We're definitely well above 50, 60, 70%. 1/3 of the nation was ill-fed, ill-housed, and ill-clothed. These conditions propelled Roosevelt, a strong believer in the role and power of the federal government, to campaign for the office of the United States, President of the United States. In his 1932 presidential election campaign, Roosevelt, a Democrat, used rhetoric that gave blacks the impression that he was sympathetic to their economic needs. Roosevelt's slogans expressed a deep concern for the forgotten man and pledged a new deal for the people. Black Americans naturally but erroneously believed the broad terms forgotten man and the people either referred to or included them. At that time, the majority of blacks belonged to the Republican Party, a continuation of their allegiance to Abraham Lincoln. But in the 1932 election, blacks abandoned the Republican Party and threw their votes to Roosevelt, who won the election with their support. Once in office, Roosevelt and his administration designed a New Deal program for the working class and poor. However, as it turned out, Roosevelt's New Deal did not have blacks in mind. Surprise, surprise. The New Deal did not address the government and culturally imposed reasons blacks were so poverty-stricken in the first place, and provided them only a few low-level jobs, limited health care services, and minimal welfare benefits. Within a few short years of implementation of the New Deal, national surveys and social discomfort indicators revealed that in the midst of the Great Depression, economic conditions for blacks grew worse, and the gap between them and whites grew even wider. Eleanor Roosevelt, the wife of Roosevelt, was sympathetic to the conditions of blacks and tried to provide them an entree to her husband. She organized an informal group called the Black Kitchen Cabinet to meet with her and to advise her on black issues, which she presented in her own way to the president. By the 1940s, a significant number of blacks had lost faith in Roosevelt and began to call his New Deal the Dirty Deal. Blacks had experienced a political lesson. Pay attention. He says that in our competitive race-based society, the social construct on race does not allow equal footing. White privilege is structural, and whether conscious or subconscious, the socioeconomic outcomes are foreordained by race. So give me a yes if you follow what was just said here. Dr. Claude Anderson just explained something that I bet none of you learned in school. How many of you learned that in school? Give me a yes if you did not learn this. Let me know if they ignored this and never told you, because this is not the stuff they tell you. They tell you that the New Deal was wonderful for everybody, and it's interesting because they will completely ignore the extreme intense suffering of your great-grandparents and what they had to go through, and the fact that they called it the Dirty Deal, and the fact that they didn't support Roosevelt after this New Deal came out gives the other side of the coin. Right. And this is important, right? There is no such thing as one America. There definitely is the black version of America and the white version of America. And then there are other versions in between. And in fact, I remember when OJ Simpson was acquitted, and that was a stark example of the difference in terms of how whites and blacks see America differently. Though it almost every single city, the black students or black people were cheering and going crazy because they were happy that OJ was acquitted, and the white folks were crying. Like white girls were literally crying, like someone had literally killed one of their relatives, which was so interesting. And I know where my wife and I were. It was the same way. I was at the University of Kentucky at the time. She was at Indiana University, and she was in the Black Student Union. And they were just going crazy, and she looked over and saw the white people crying, and I saw the same thing at the University of Kentucky. So there's different realities here, and I think that an understanding of the black reality is really important, because I think that what they try to do is get you to let your guard down and make you think that racism is a thing of the past. They make you think that some other issue outside of blackness is more important. So rather than being black first, they train you to become gay first, or rather than being black first, it's like you're a woman first, or you're whatever it is, right? And my belief is that no, you're black first. Black first means that being black creates a unique experience, such that that unique experience requires unique remedies and unique solutions. And those unique solutions are not just whites versus minorities. It's foundational black Americans, whatever you want to call it, American descendants of slaves, whatever you want to call it. But there are issues specific to those of you who are descendants of slavery that do not belong to anybody else. So that means that any reparations plan has to start there. It has to start there. It has to start there. So, but obviously, that's not going to occur. What's going to happen is whatever the plan is, everybody else is going to jump on board, because I think that there's this inherent feeling amongst other groups that, look, if the black people are getting it, we should get it too. If they're getting it, we should get it first. If I'm a feminist, it's like, well, no, if black people are getting it, then we got to get it. Right? Or how dare you treat us worse than you treat the black people? Like, I think that that's kind of the sentiment and the understanding. And I think it's very important that we fight for whatever it is that we think we deserve. So I'll leave that up to you to decide what that looks like. Now let's go to page 148 of the Black History Reader by Dr. Claude Anderson. This is powernomics.com is his website. I'm repeating that for those of you that just came in. So question 48 is this. This is interesting. This is a great Juneteenth lesson as well, in terms of what's going to be required to fix the economic and social issues that exist in the community. He brings up a World War II style Marshall Plan. He asks question 48, does Black America need a World War II type Marshall Plan? Black Americans entered the 21st century as an impoverished and politically abandoned people, still suffering from socioeconomic pathologies and the legacies of slavery. Astronomically high rates of, now let's make note of this. I need us to really meditate on the issues, meditate on the suffering, so you can understand what's going on, so you'll know how important the solution is. Astronomically high rates of unemployment, homicides, failing schools, incarcerations, drug addiction, and dysfunctional families will be made worse by an apathetic majority society that is fixated on supporting immigrants and class minorities. Black America needs a World War II type of urban Marshall Plan to address this dilemma, just as this country invested $12 billion and relocated 300,000 European Jews in the late 1940s to aid Germany's recovery. Even in the fall of 2016, President Barack Obama's administration continued World War II efforts in support of European Jews and approved $24 million for Holocaust survivors in the U.S. living below the national poverty line. While this is a generous gesture, no similar level of concern seems to have been made to relieve the distress of the more than 50% of Black American families who live on incomes below the national poverty line 156 years after slavery officially ended. The protracted problems that Blacks endure today in America are similar in nearly every respect to the conditions in Germany following World War II, conditions which were justified for the aid the U.S. gave to the nation that it had just fought for 4 years. The U.S., so they fought Germany, so Germany is an enemy of the United States, and they did more for them than they did for people in their own country. Isn't that interesting? In fact, does anybody remember when, who was it? Oh gosh, Joe Louis fought Max Schmeling back, I guess, during World War II or around that time. And Joe Louis, he died broke, right? I guess there was some financial management issues kind of going on. And I know that he lost a lot of his boxing years volunteering for the military to prove his patriotism. And as a result, they caused him some IRS problems because they started to tax him in a way that wasn't appropriate and wasn't fair. But one thing I remember reading was that Coca-Cola hired Max Schmeling, if I'm not mistaken, who Joe Louis had fought, who was out of Nazi Germany, and they didn't give any opportunities to Joe Louis. And I remember somebody bringing up just the irony that they would hire somebody from an enemy side of the fence before they hired a black man in America who literally sacrificed a chunk of his career just to show his patriotism. And so, to some, obviously that's incorrect. That's wrong for them to do that to him. But then also, it was problematic that he felt the need to show patriotism to the people who had treated him the worst. It seems to me that if you're going to be patriotic, you should be patriotic to your community, right? If Joe Louis had been black first, I think he would have understood the importance of protecting his resources and keeping his guard up instead of somehow thinking that the people who don't like you or don't respect you are going to have any use for you once you can't box anymore. Once you're no longer a cash cow or serve an economic benefit, is either an athlete, entertainer, comedian, or whatever, then you're going to be taken out to pasture like everybody else. You just become a regular black man. So anyway, let's keep going here. According to Dr. Anderson, he says here, the protracted problems that blacks endure today in America are similar in nearly every respect to conditions in Germany following World War II, conditions that were justified for the aid the U.S. gave to the nation that it had just fought for 4 years. The U.S. wanted to take whatever measures possible to help Germany develop industries, businesses, and consumer products and return to a normal functioning country. Otherwise, there will be no political stability and no assured peace in Germany. Now, isn't this interesting, right? Because you think about this, Germany is a very strong economy now. Germany, their engineering is known around the world. A lot of you may have bought or considered owning German cars. And none of this would be possible if the United States had not stepped up and invested billions of dollars in rebuilding their community. The same thing is true in Japan. After they dropped that bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, there was lots of investment in Japan, and now Japan is one of the great superpowers of the world. So the question I would ask is, what would the black community look like if we were able to access the kinds of resources that we deserve in order to build the kinds of communities that we aspire to build? What would happen if someone like me was able to, with a PhD in finance, was able to acquire $10 billion to invest in building a school system or whatever it is across the country to educate our children on economics? Our kids would literally lead the earth. They would literally lead the earth in economic intelligence. That much I can tell you right now, because I know exactly how to do it. In fact, they're going to do it anyway, just with the resources we've had. But it will be much easier if we had the resources that we really would be able to apply in order to achieve the goal. So effectively, to me, my simple point would be that, and I encourage you to consider this, that you can't just tell me that you care about me. You got to show me. Love is a verb. Love is a verb. I can't just tell my wife, "Hey, baby, I love you," and then get on an airplane and abandon her and the kids and leave them here to starve to death. You know, I can't say I love you and then go hanging out with Sally and Cindy and abandon the household and act like I don't care about the family no more. I can't. That's not love. I mean, I could say it. I could call her every day and be, "Baby, I love you. I love you. I love you." But that's not really love. Love is a verb. Love is, I show my love to her by being here with her every day. I show my love to her by helping her with the kids. I show my love to her by going out and working hard for the family. I show my love to her by taking out the damn garbage. Love is a verb. Love is a verb. Love is a verb. Love is a verb. Do we agree that love is a verb? Tell me if you agree. So if love is a verb, love is a verb, love is a verb, love is a verb, why in the hell do we take it when politicians will say, "I love you, I love you, I love you," and put no action behind their words? Why in the world do we allow people to give us words when we know that talk is cheap? The reason they say talk is cheap is because it don't cost you nothing to say something. It don't cost you nothing to say what you gonna do and who you are, and we promise you this and promise you that. No, no, no. Love is a verb. Love is a verb. I need action. If you have no action, then your words mean absolutely nothing. Why? Well, because talk is cheap. So, in my view, if you want to translate this into political action, and I'm not here to tell you how to do that, you can make your own decision on that point. I'm not trying to persuade you on anything other than the basics. The basics say that that action is more important than just language. Don't just tell me that you are sorry for slavery. Show me. Write the damn check. Don't just tell me that you embrace African Americans. Show me. Write the check. Write the check. Don't run away every time we want to talk about reparations. Don't make it. We shouldn't have to chase you down and beg you to do what you know you need to do. And then the other thing too that's just so crazy is I got to chase you and beg you. The only time I can get your attention is when you're trying to get something out of me, and you'll chase me down and beg me to come out and show up to the polls for you. But when I was chasing you down to get you to write that reparations check, you wasn't picking up the phone. I had to act like the bill collector or the baby mama looking for the child support, or running up in the club with a bonnet and bunny slippers saying, "Where's the money? Little Pookie needs some diapers." And you have been AWOL the entire time. So to me, when you talk about this political relationship, it has to be respectful, fair, and reciprocal. I don't think that it has been to this point. Again, you can think differently, it's totally fine, but I don't think it's been reciprocal because you want something tangible from us, but you don't give us anything tangible in return. Reparations is the item of the day. Thank goodness it's been finally pushed to the top. Shout out to everybody who's been talking about it consistently. They just had a reparations rally in DC. Tariq Nasheed and some others got together, and I thought that was great. I spoke at the rally a couple years ago, and I support it entirely. And I personally think this is the rallying cry for this generation. Let's keep going here. All right, so let's see here. So the U.S. wanted to take whatever measures possible to help Germany develop industries, businesses, and consumer products. This is the same message that Black Lives Matter marchers have carried across this nation in recent years. Their banners and chants proclaim no justice, no peace. The urban centers where blacks are the majority population need to be economically redeveloped and industrialized to become politically stable and peaceful. Blacks need industrialization, not gentrification or displacement by immigration, which we know those two things are happening. The goals and strategies of the World War II Marshall Plan are good models because, by all accounts, the plan was enormously successful in rebuilding Germany and war torn Europe. An urban Marshall Plan for Black America should provide federal funds targeted to 10 majority Black populated urban centers. Such a national Marshall Plan should primarily focus on economically redeveloping and industrializing those centers for the specific benefit of this nation's historically underserved Black population. Just as this nation has implemented programs to address problems peculiar to immigrants, women, gays, ethnics, and protracted socioeconomic let me go back here. And the handicapped, it is time for it to prioritize and fully address the protracted socioeconomic dilemma of the nation's official underclass, Black Americans. Because of their unique historical oppression, Black Americans should not have to queue up with fabricated class minorities for corrective government assistance, meaning that you shouldn't have to blend in with other people. You should be able to get something alone. The goal of such assistance should be to complete the short-lived efforts begun in the 1960s to correct the historical legacies of slavery. In 2012, the Harvest Institute, which is Dr. Claude Anderson's think tank, asked President Barack Obama to structure an urban Marshall Plan for Black America. Unfortunately, Obama did not acknowledge, nor did he or his staff respond to the request, and Black people in their respective neighborhoods continue to deteriorate. But where there is life, there is hope. Even though African Americans are without functional communities, a competitive economy, and are an underclass. An underclass group is one that has faded from the public consciousness and, by the very nature of its socioeconomic conditions and political powerlessness, will always struggle for survival. However, Blacks did not become an underclass overnight. An urban Marshall Plan for Black America still holds the potential to reverse deteriorating conditions within Black America and their neighborhoods. The question is, from whence will come the needed measure of national concern and economic assistance? Okay, that's enough. I'm going to stop us right there. Next week, we're going to ask this question. Why is the pattern of Black men killed by white law enforcement personnel so acceptable and so entrenched in society? So he's going to give the history of policing and the racism of it, of course, next week. We're going to do that next week. But today, what I can do is, since we have a few more minutes, is I can answer some questions for you if you have questions. I'm going to say this. When you talk about Juneteenth, I think that there has to be some sort of substance there in terms of starting with your own lives and starting with the broader community. What are the key issues and what would be expected? If you talk about the elections coming up, what do you feel that you deserve in exchange for your vote? I'm not telling you what to ask for, but I think you should ask for something. And I don't think you should just lean on fear. I don't think fear of a Republican presidency or fear of a Democrat should drive you to choose any political party. I think that it should be something more substantive than that, because fear leans on lower vibrational energy. when they get you afraid, they get you pretty much to comply to whatever they want you to do. And I think that's a problem. Why are you so successful when others fail? Let's take accountability. Okay. Why am I successful when others fail? I will say that part of it came from, I give my parents credit for having a strong culture of accountability and personal responsibility. And I do believe that there is an accountability among us to do the best we can with what we have. I think that there are opportunities for Black people. I saw Charlemagne the guy was debating with Bill Maher, and Bill Maher didn't agree with him when Charlemagne said that it's 5 times harder to be successful if you're Black than if you're white. And I think that Bill Maher is wrong. I think Charlemagne was right about that. And the reason I say that is because I know as a Black man, there were a lot more landmines I had to dodge, a lot more things I had to kind of navigate. Like, a lot of people can't say, my best friend got shot in the head, or I have several friends who got many, many years in prison, or my father wasn't there because he was on drugs when I was growing up as a kid, or the other things I had to navigate a culture that's being mass promoted to people like me that basically encourages Black men to sit around and drink and smoke and womanize and waste their time and promote ignorance, right? Over productivity. So I think that it is harder as a Black person to get to a certain level. When I got my PhD in finance, I was the only African American on the entire planet to get that degree that year, and it wasn't just because white guys are smarter. So I think that that arrogance of thinking that somehow you're superior and that you're just culturally better and intellectually better than us, and that's why you're able to navigate your system better than we can. That's a bunch of nonsense, and I think Bill Maher is wrong. All right, so let's see here. Let's see. Shantae says, "Are we as Black people in a position comparable, parallel to the J community, to really say voting doesn't matter or won't affect us? Look at the Supreme Court and other courts amongst." I'm not saying voting does or does not matter. I'm just going to say that they don't really vote as much as we do, and I think it's because of the fact that they teach economics to their children at an early age, and they have a culture built around the acquisition and the preservation and the growth of resources. I don't think we have a culture that's built around the acquisition and the preservation and the growth of economic resources. I don't think that there's enough financial consciousness in the community. If there was more financial consciousness, then that means that you would get money and you would protect it, you would grow it, you would invest it. You'd be more likely to place it somewhere where it's safe and it will grow, as opposed to doing this, right? And this comes from a lot of this comes right out of hip hop culture. Hip hop culture constantly promotes these images of these famous, wealthy, mostly men, just throwing money around. And then now, I guess the female rappers are throwing their bodies around, right? So they're cheapening themselves by selling their bodies. Everybody's twerking, right? And I personally think that that is a difference maker. So I think that you got to kind of look around. Don't get me wrong. I believe in accountability for everybody. I will hold, white America as accountable as they need to be. I have no problem with that. I have no fear of that. But I also think that it would be wrong to act like white people are solely responsible for every problem that we have. I don't agree with that. I think that we have choices, and I think sometimes we take a crutch. We take an accountability crutch. We just let people make us the victims, and then as the victims, we just say, as victims, there's no responsibility, no accountability that you have, and I don't think that that empowers you. All right, so let's see. Fanny says, "Is there a chance that you will create a Black investment company?" Probably not. I don't really see that. I really don't want to. I don't know. I'm busy with stuff with the Black Business School, and even back when the Tulsa Fund started, I was asked to do something similar to that, and I said no, I don't want to do that because I don't want to I don't want to manage a bunch of money from a lot of unqualified investors, because if it goes wrong, it'll be a disaster, and that's exactly what happened. It went wrong. I don't know what occurred with that money with the Tulsa Fund, but I do know that whatever happened, somebody messed up, and now it's undermined the trust in the Black economic revolution, or the Black economic movement, which has really disappointed me too, because I had high hopes for it, and I personally don't want. But then again, though, at the same time, it was kind of like it was a storm. It was a storm of bad management, but also when you have investors that have never really invested before and don't really understand exactly what's happening, it can go wrong. It can all go wrong. All right, so let's see here. Do you think that we will get reparations soon? Is it going to take a lot of time? I think it's going to take a while, but I think that's good because as if it takes a while, that gives you time to prepare, to make sure you're asking for the right thing. Because if they wrote that check tomorrow, I personally think that we would not ask for the right things, and the reparations plan would just be a bunch of BS. And then that would be the next thing I'd be talking about, is how crazy it is. Um, how do we get recordings of the book club meetings? Great question. If you go to drboycebookclub.com, you should be able to find it there. So just go to drboycebookclub.com, and also you can email support at theblackbusinessschool.com. Support at theblackbusinessschool.com. They can not only help you with anything you want to do in the Black Business School, but they can also help you find the book club information. So feel free. Yeah, there's probably by now, I bet you there's 400 lectures in there, something. I don't know. It's a lot of stuff, maybe at least 200 or 300. Terrence, with the current statistics of Black economics and culture, how many more years do you think it will be before we as a people break through to prosperity? You know what, Terrence? I think it's already happened. I don't think it's going to happen where everybody crosses the line at the same time. I don't believe that. Some people will be generations behind others. Do you understand? Some of you have already crossed. I know you. I know because we have 162,000 students in the Black Business School, and everybody ain't the same. Not everybody's at the same place. Some of you are disciplined. I talked to a 38-year-old Black man today who is managing hundreds of millions of dollars, who's 100% pro-Black, who's right here in our space. You'll probably never hear his name because he doesn't run around bragging about it, but he's really getting it done. And I've talked to dozens of families in the last few weeks that have over $1 million in assets. So, the reason we think every Black person is suffering is because they only promote certain images of Black people in media. You're not seeing the people that I think you should see. I think you should see some of the really intelligent, hardworking, industrious people out there. A lot of the people that follow this platform, for example, are military people. And one thing I've noticed about my friends that are in the military is they don't mess around. They don't sit around and feel sorry for themselves. They're not lazy. They just want to figure out what's the mission, what's the assignment, how do we get this done, and they get it done. My father was in Vietnam War, and that's his mindset. My father does not sit around crying like a little biatch. He doesn't do that. He figures out what needs to be done, and he gets it done because he knows his family needs him. And that to me is simple. And I really wish that was more of the culture, but unfortunately, that's not what's promoted. It makes me want to vomit in my mouth every time I see a Black man feeling sorry for himself. Because where I come from, that's just not how you win a battle. That's not how you fight for anything. So I'm not here to disrespect anybody, but maybe your sons need to hear this, because some of our boys are not tough. You got to be tough, man. You got to fight. That's it. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna get off the soapbox with that, but that's just my encouragement. I really think even when I hear these goofy conversations about relationships, and the men will say, "Well, what about the women? Well, she wants me to have money. Well, she ain't got no money," and I'm like, "But you're not a woman, though. You're not. That's like if you say you want her to have long, pretty hair, and she says, "Well, he ain't got no hair." Well, he's a man. He's not going to have hair like yours most of the time, right? So I don't. I just really think that when we get to this point where we're starting to act like the men and the women are the same, I think you're losing even more of your identity. Where when I in my household, it was very clear who the man was and who the woman was, and everybody kind of had their own job based on that distinction. And so the fact that people don't know these things, these very basic things, that's really jeopardizes your community. And I'll say this last point, then I'm done on this one. But I think that one thing that we struggle with as a Black community is that people don't respect the community because they don't respect your men. They have no fear that the Black men are going to come together and stand up and defend anything. They don't think they don't. I think that our women feel less protected than women in other groups. They would expect a Black woman to fight them before they expect Black men to do that, and that's embarrassing. Honestly, I think that that's just something that has to be addressed and dealt with. To be honest with you, so and I know everybody's not in that category, so don't think I'm talking about you if you don't fit the description. But y'all see what I'm talking about. It's BS. It's nonsense. It's ridiculous. All right, so Dr. Vibe, how you doing, Dr. Vibe? Good to see you. What are your thoughts on Switch Beats and Timberlands versus distribution deal with Elon Musk? Yeah, I think I didn't know Elon Musk was such a racist, but then I saw some of the things he tweeted. I said, oh my God, that's right. You were born during apartheid. So Elon Musk is a guy that I think he doesn't hate every Black person, but he doesn't generally respect Black people as a collective. And I think that Elon Musk also says the things out loud that a lot of other people like him, melanin deficient people like him, are afraid to say. They're thinking it, but they don't say it. I mean, seriously, think about this. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about. You really think if you ask them, like in their heart of hearts, to really tell the truth about how they perceive the Black community or how they perceive the Black male, do you really think they're going to say good things? Like, do you think that maybe that's the reason why, they don't want their daughter to get pregnant by a black man? Because they're thinking, oh, he's just going to abandon the baby. And then we glorify men who abandon the baby. And that becomes the image of us throughout the world. And that just drives me crazy. I don't like Musk as a person, but I never cared about liking him. I look at him like I look at Donald Trump. He's a young Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the same way, just kind of an arrogant white male who underestimated the amount of privilege that he had, but also had some intelligence. Musk has skill, and you have to acknowledge that. At the same time, I think the Switch Beats and Timberland, they look like typical people in the entertainment industry. They'll just sign with whoever's got the most money. So I'm sure if you ask them about Elon Musk's racist tweet that he put up, I think he liked a tweet that was something that said something about black people killing white people, and then there was another tweet about black people having lower IQ scores. That they didn't talk about that one. I saw that one where there was something he shared where it said that black people have lower IQ scores than white people, and that's just you know, it's like whatever. But by the way, Larry, okay, I see your issue with the A, B, and C. If you went to allblacknationalconvention.com and you had any issue with a ticket, make sure you email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. I think that we have somebody in the chat from the team. I don't know, Amani, are you in the chat? If you're in the chat, say something. So maybe somebody in the chat can actually help you as well. But if not, you can email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. There we go. There's Amani. Amani's right there in the chat. So if you have a question about your tickets for the convention, she can take good care of you. And speaking of that, you guys know the All Black National Convention is October 25th through the 27th. And basically, the theme for this year is you are your own black leader, and basically we want you to open up the black leader inside of you, because that's what I believe is going to be the solution. It's not going to be everybody doing the same thing at the same time, or having one great leader that leads everybody. It's going to be individuals and families, right, working together and just saying, okay, we don't care what's going on outside of this house, but this is how things are happening here. And if you have a series of strong families, then that's how you build a strong community. So that's the theme for this year, and we have a lot of speakers and panels and all kinds of stuff, and you're going to love it. The energy is always very, very good at the convention. So you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com, and it's going to take place October 25th through the 27th in Lombard, Illinois, right outside Chicago. All right, so how far out will it be to see Powernomics training centers throughout the country? I don't know. If we raise the money, I tell you, I don't know. Somebody introduced me to Jaylen Brown's brother. The guy who just won the championship, and I said, yeah, I'll talk to his brother. Maybe I can get them to endorse a project or something, and help raise the money to do something like that. But it's something where, I mean, I tried to talk Kanye into it. I don't think he completely understood the vision. I think he's a little bit distracted, but maybe Jaylen can do what Kanye would not do. I would love to see somebody put forth the resources. I don't want to make a nickel. I don't need any money from anybody, but I would love to see somebody put that kind of and really you could do a lot with just maybe $50 million or something. Like, you could really build a powerful template, hire some people, and really execute that. And here's the idea, right? Here's what people don't understand, is that people think that to understand economics at a high level, you have to have this deep, comprehensive education, and you really don't. It's really literally in finance. And I say this as a guy who's seen all the theories and all the, taking all the classes. There are like little tiny things you can do. Like, if you have like, you can have like, if you limit it to maybe 10 rules that everybody followed or something related to investing in wealth, it would take the black community from the bottom to the top. Like, we would literally go to the lead if everybody was incentivized to follow those basic rules. Very basic things. Invest 10% of your income in the S&P 500. Everybody's wealthy within less than a generation. Think about where you're spending your money. Right? Don't give your money away to other people. Work on your families. Work on the things that are not financial. That's what's going to actually protect your wealth. We talk about wealth and we talk about investing, and people. I see people online talking about stock options that they bought that made money. Making money is not the most important part of building wealth. The most important part of building wealth really has to do with the things that money can't buy. It's creating an economic incubator in a space that generates financial fertility. See, there are some spaces where money will grow, and there's some spaces where money will not grow. It's just like a garden. There's some land that will grow anything, and then there's some land that is like a desert, that's very dry. So the problem is that the areas where your economics is supposed to grow are like little deserts. You have a lot of economic deserts in your families created by bad culture. For example, undiagnosed, untreated trauma is a huge problem. That's why we created the Black Financial Therapy Department in the Black Business School. No other school has this. No HBCU has this, but we got the scientists that are working on this because we realized that the trauma levels are so high in the community. It's ridiculous. It is a virus that no one talks about. Trauma is everywhere. And in fact, if you go take the ACEs test, ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, the ACEs test, I guarantee that most of you are going to have a very high trauma score. And what my beautiful wife taught me, who is an expert on trauma, she's certified on this, in addition to being a full professor of social work and a licensed therapist, she sees 4 or 5 clients a day. She was explaining to me all of the things that trauma causes you to do that you're not aware of. Trauma causes you to die earlier. It makes it very, very hard for you to have relationships. It causes you to make horrible economic decisions, all that. So just by not healing the trauma, that's probably costing the Black community several $1 trillion every generation. So if you're trying to really develop wealth in a community, you're going to have to heal that trauma. Traumatized people can't get together because when they get together, they start fighting each other. They trigger each other. It's like we're jabbing each other with little swords and cutting each other's hearts out. And then you're next thing you know, you're scared, or you're mad, or you want to fight, or you want to run, or whatever. You're having all these trauma responses, and trauma responses don't work well in business meetings. You can't have a good. Anybody ever tried to love a heavily traumatized person? It's impossible. Their feelings get hurt. Next thing you know, they trying to set your bed on fire while you're sleeping, right? Or they don't ran and they done ghosted you. They don't call you back, right? Or whatever, right? So these are the things that have to be discussed. You got to discuss it all. You have to discuss it all, and you need scientists, and we've got the scientists, we've got the people. So what the resources would do if we had, say, $50 million in a pot and said built out some sort of ecosystem, we would hire those scientists, right? And literally, instead of you spending all your time serving massa at whatever job you have doing something that means nothing to the Black community, you would be applying all your energy and attention to solving these problems. That which you put your energy into is that which pays off. That's it. That if you put the car you put the gas in is the one that's going to go the furthest. So the Black wealth car doesn't go very far because nobody puts gas in the damn thing. But the white man's bus goes it goes 10,000 miles because we're all pouring our gas into that. We're all putting our intellectual capital into that. We're all pouring our spare time, free time, everything else into that. So the things that we pour energy into are the things that will grow. The things that we don't pour energy into are the things that will not grow. So you've got to be in a position. Part of your freedom package, in my opinion, isn't just to have the freedom to do what you want, but it's also to have the consciousness of what to do with that freedom. So you got to understand, if you study something like stock options with me, and what I do is I talk about options from both sides, and I say, okay, if you are the person who does not have an option, then you've lost something. When you give someone an option that you used to own, they compensate you for it. So what they do every day when you go to work is they're buying an option from you. You have the option to stay at home and Netflix and chill or spend time with your kids, but instead you sell that option in exchange for a paycheck, which is just enough money for you to survive and get by, right? So let's see what happens when you actually have wealth. See, when you have wealth, you don't have to sell that option anymore, right? Because now you've got what you need. Do you follow me? Let me know if you're following this analogy. So you don't have to sell your option of freedom anymore because now you've got enough income. You're like, no, I don't need your little crappy job because daddy invested for me or mom will put some stocks in the fridge for me. So I'm fine. I'm going to be okay. So now you've got this option. Now you're wealthier because you've got this option in your hands, and then you have the ability to use this option in any way that you want. Follow me now, follow me. So you've got this option. You can apply this option anywhere that you want. Now you have to have consciousness to understand what to do with that power. If you are a man or woman with power or options or something of value, something of weight, and you don't have consciousness, like you're a blind person that's just going to throw it in any direction, then what you're going to do is you're going to waste your opportunity. And I've told you all 1,000 times that the word poor stands for what? It stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly. So when you are not conscious, you are effectively begging to be poor. Those who are not conscious of what you're doing with your power. What are you doing with your energy? What are you doing with your spare time? What are you doing with your intellect? What are you doing with this extra option that you have to do whatever you want? And unconscious people, they just waste it. They waste it. It's just like love. With love, you have the option to be with whoever you want. And if you don't value yourself or you're not conscious about who you're dating, next thing you know, you got a baby mama or a baby daddy that you hate. Right. And you're like, how did this happen? Well, because you weren't conscious. You had something valuable. You had an option. Options have value. This is one of the most fundamental rules of financial theory. When you have options, that there is value there, but you gave that value away because you did not see the value in what you had. Do you understand that? So anytime you see somebody who gets the blessing of being fired from their job, and when they get blessed by being fired from their job and they're sitting at home, they have the option of what to do with all this free time. An unconscious person wastes that option by sitting there and saying, gosh, I'm worthless because nobody's calling me. Because the white man won't hire me, then my time has no value. I'm worthless because he doesn't acknowledge me. But a conscious person says, oh, wait a minute, I've got a whole extra 14 hours a day. What am I going to do with this? I am suddenly blessed and endowed with all this wealth. And then consciousness and education, enlightenment, knowledge gives me a plethora of options, a plethora of ways I can use this newfound wealth called free time. Time, see, the prize is not the money. The prize is in the time. The prize is in the freedom. Money only matters to the extent that it can buy you time, that it can buy you freedom, that it can buy you peace, all these other things that we value. So when you have these things in your possession and you are conscious, to me, that is the most powerful you can ever be. Really, in my goal in my life, in my own life, I'm not trying to be powerful over other people. I just want to be powerful in my own space. And my goal is to be to have options, freedom, free time, and to be very conscious of what I do with that time. And I think when you do that, then what happens is you say, I'll tell you, like, for example, I know that I don't spend a lot of time doing stupid stuff. If I feel like something is stupid or a meeting is a waste of time or somebody's getting on my nerves, I walk away because I say, I think I'd rather use this time calling my mother because one day I'm going to hit an age where I won't have a mother anymore, and I need to go and pour that time into my mother, or I'm going to spend this time reading a book. I'm going to spend this time with my wife. Or I'm going to spend this time gaining a skill. Do you understand? So consciousness, I think, is critical, but then also freedom to go with the consciousness is powerful because if you are a conscious slave, then you will be tortured. Life is terrible if you are a conscious slave. It goes back to when James Baldwin used to say that when you're black and conscious, you're just going to be pissed off all the time. And I think that that's because because you're conscious of what freedom looks like. You're conscious of how valuable freedom is. You're conscious of what you would do with that freedom if you have it, but you don't have it. So you're in that horrible position of really desiring something that you don't have access to. So then you're like the lion that's in the cage that's roaring every minute, and the zookeeper puts his arm in there, you're gonna rip his arm off because you're dying to get out of this cage, right? So get that freedom, and with the freedom comes the consciousness, but they tend to go hand in hand. So I believe that if we really almost are meditative about this and really think about this, like, okay, what does freedom really look like? How do we acquire it? And then when we get it, what do we do with it? Then can't nobody stop us. We'll win every battle. You can't defeat a conscious, intelligent black man or black woman that has plenty of resources and plenty of self-esteem and knows who the hell they are and knows where the hell they're going. The world can't stop a person like that. So my goal, if I was running a system like this, a school system, is I would take that 50 million and I would pour it into a production process. I would mass produce millions of little black children that know who they are, that know where the money's at. They know what hard work is required to get it. They are very conscious of possibilities and opportunities, and they are assertive and very, very focused in terms of what the next step is going to be. And also they are healed, so they are collaborative and loving toward one another. So they can then go in as a group and kick everybody's ass, whoever tries to threaten the freedom that God gave them. That to me is the dream. That's the beauty. That's what's going to happen. That's what we're going to see it one day. Maybe we won't see it while I'm here, but that's to me the black community that will prosper. Right. So that's it, guys. I'm done talking. Thank you guys for listening. I hope this discussion was helpful to you. Tomorrow morning, we do financial consciousness training. We do this every single morning at 10 a.m. So if you want to come, bring your family. It's totally free. Anybody who wants to join, all you got to do, pull out your phone, text the word morning to the number 87948. If you text morning to 87948, I'll send you an invitation. Or if you live out of the country, you can go to drboyceelevate.com. That's drboyceelevate.com. And that's it. And also, if you want to take a look at my books or my wife's books or our financial flashcards for kids, things like that, you can go to drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. All right, everybody, have a good day. God bless you.